I'd like to take this opportunity in this video to correct what is widely misunderstood in Hindu misinterpretation of most all of the scriptures dealing with Brahman. And how I'd like to clear it up, you can go cross-check it if you want, and you can go reread it if you want. The problem is nobody is going to interpret it the way I do. So consequently, you're not going to be able to go for a reference check and go, oh, wait, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about, because it doesn't coincide with the Vedas or whatever it is you're getting your information with. And that's because it is widely misinterpreted and misunderstood. I think that for the most part it's probably misunderstood because people just aren't, they're not getting their information from any, they're not getting it from God, they're getting it from people, and people misinterpret. So what I'm talking about is Brahman. So that's misinterpreted as like the supreme God. Another term that I don't know if it's new or whatever, but meaning, New Age type people. They refer to Brahman as the absolute and stuff like that. And they say, well, God came from this, and every God, every source comes from Brahman. And so you attribute this Brahman as some sort of a deity or the head god or whatever you want to call it. And none of that is true. So moving forward, what Brahman is what some gurus speak of, which is the no thing or nothing, or shunyata, nirvana. There's a lot of different kind of touching upon this thing of Brahman, but Brahman is the great void of nothingness or no thing, and it isn't aware, it isn't a God, it has no intelligence, it isn't a deity, it isn't anything. You don't worship Brahman. It's like, okay, here's what it's like. It's like, well, I'm going to explain what it's like. So Brahma, which is assumed in Hindu theology as the leading deity or God, the creator God, well, Brahma came from Brahman. Some people pronounce it Brahman. And probably that's the correct pronunciation. I don't know. I'm not Hindu. But everything emanates or initially comes from Brahman. But Brahman, your brain, your mind, you cannot conceive of what it is because it isn't anything. And it's not good to try to define it, because you're just doing yourself a disservice by trying to define it. Now, you can try to define the other gods. You can try to define Brahma, for instance, which is the essence of love, the creator. You can say all these things about that particular god. And you can say other things about the Vishnu, which is the sustainer, it supports everything that Brahma creates. And when I say it, not it, but God. Another issue about Brahma is I am not entirely sure. I think they pretty much most people refer to these gods as in the male sense or whatever. But I don't think that's accurate. But I don't have any proof positive on it. But I think it's more like it is in this reality where you got husband and wife type thing. And when you refer to Brahma, it's definitely, there has to be a male and female. The issue, the way the stories are told in the sutras and all that kind of stuff, not true. I mean, Brahma didn't have multiple wives and all this stuff. That's horse crap that is pushed by the male ego that wants to have sex with multiple women and all that stuff. It just isn't true. So this issue with Brahman, it's the way I liken it is Brahma is like a flashlight, for instance, and I always say the light of God, but it isn't light as we see it with our eyes. But in this reality, it is light. But what it is the light, which is the love of Brahma, cast his love into the great darkness. And those that respond to the love create themselves out of the nothingness of Brahman. And when they do that, they have to exit that domain of nothingness into somethingness. And they're drawn like gravity, if you will, or a magnet or whatever. It's drawn like gravity. So the Atman that creates itself into existence by being drawn by the love of God exits Brahman. It comes out into whatever realm Brahma created. And that particular realm, call it a heaven, call it whatever you want to call it. There's multiple endless realms that Brahma creates. And so there's the spiritual realm, the physical realm, there's on and on and on. But you're no longer in that realm of nothingness. And even Brahma, the creator God, no God can go inside of Brahman because you have to be nothing to be in Brahman. So you have to exit Brahman to be something. Brahma is eternal. Vishnu is eternal. And the reason I say they're eternal, well, all things are eternal, but because they're never going back to the great void. They're never going back to Brahman, ever, never. And when a kalpa time is over, that's when those that are one with God, those that are one with Jesus, those that are one with Brahma, Vishnu, they will maintain their cohesiveness with God for all eternity. And those that are not one with God have to stand on their own. And since this reality will cease to exist, meaning this universe and all the realms with it, because God will not maintain it anymore, there's nowhere for the evil entities to continue to molest, continue to exist. And so they have no choice but to go back to Brahman, the void, the darkness. And they have an opportunity to accept the love of God when another kalpa of time starts. So the reason I wanted to bring this up is because it's incredibly disrespectful. And I don't know if it's taught that non-duality and all these things. I don't know if they're taught that Brahman is the absolute or whatever. They hopscotch over the creator God, which is Brahma, which is the God that Jesus prayed to. They skip over that deity, that God, and just go directly to Brahman and go, oh, the great Brahman, the greatest of all, and all that kind of stuff. And this is how it's disrespectful. It's like, this is maybe a dumb analogy, but it's kind of like you have a bunch of people and they're in a northern territory in the winter, and winter's coming on, and Brahma decides to cut down some trees because the people, they don't know how to cut down trees. They don't know how to do anything. And he cuts down a bunch of trees and makes firewood and builds a bunch of homes for them and stuff like that. Wood stoves and all that, everything. So they live through the super cold winter, and when they're all done, they're all on their hands and knees and they're going, oh, we're so grateful to the trees for saving us because they provided heat and shelter and all that kind of stuff. And they completely ignore Brahma that actually cut the tree down and provided a sustainable situation for them to survive the winter. The tree doesn't give a damned about the people. It isn't even aware that the people exist. It doesn't care if it gets cut down. It doesn't care if it lives. It will grow through its cycle and it will fall down and someday decompose back into the earth and start the process all over again. It is totally unaware and couldn't care less if the people die, if they survive or not. It doesn't matter to the tree. But the people are giving all their respect to the tree and not to the person that saved their life. Does that make sense? That's what's happening when people talk respectfully about the absolute, when they talk respectfully about Brahman and totally ignore Vishnu, totally ignore Brahma. And I'm leaving Shiva out, Shiva. The reason I'm leaving that out is because I personally have no respect for Shiva, which is Satan. And again, that's another, in my opinion, no, it's not my opinion, it's what I actually know. That too is incredibly disrespectful. Shiva is the god that destroys everything so that the process can start all over again. So that would be the equivalent of, excuse me, of having Brahma cut down the trees and everything and figure out how to build homes and everything. And then Vishnu comes in and teaches them how to feed themselves and maintains the buildings so that they don't fall down and all that kind of stuff. And then maybe towards the end of winter or whatever, Shiva comes by and burns their buildings down. And laughing all the time, and or not laughing, let's say he's going, well, I mean, we got to keep you guys busy and all this kind of stuff. So he burns the buildings down. Well, of course, a lot of people die in the burning buildings, and it's real hardship and everything else. And then you got to go out and build the buildings again. And of course, in a lot of Hindu teachings, again, people give great praise to Shiva. It's like, oh, wow, he's the great god that burns down our buildings and our cities and kills all of our people so that we can start all over again. That in Judaism would be Satan, which is the destroyer of mankind and the father of all lies. There's all kinds of names that they give Satan, which is the same as Shiva. Anyways, I wanted to clear that up. I don't honestly think that anything in spiritual teaching, anything that I'm teaching about the truth of what reality really is, I don't think it's important for you, me, or anybody else. It's just, I suspect, at least in my case, I don't know about other people, if you love God, then you want to know God. And so you're going to search out, you're going to find this truth from God, and you might be taught directly from God's emissaries or God himself, or Vishnu might teach you, who knows? But it's not, in the end, it's not really critical important that you know this stuff, I don't think. I think that what's critically important is that you love one another, that you love each other, that you love your children, your spouse, your friends, that you sacrifice for them, that you learn to be a good person, a loving person. And at the same time, that you love God, and that you love the things that God provided for you, and love the fact that God created this universe for us. And yeah, it's a harsh universe. And yeah, it's a harsh world with earthquakes and famines and all that kind of stuff. And whether or not you want to think that that's a terrible thing or not, that's your prerogative. But of course, if you love God, you're never going to think God does terrible things for you. But so my point being is, I don't think it's important that you know this sort of stuff. I think it's important that instead you love. But on the other hand, if you're incredibly interested in spiritual matters and truth and all that kind of stuff, like I am, then you will dig deep. And eventually you're going to get to the point where everything that you're capable of understanding and learning, you've come to the end of the road. And then you realize that for the most part, a lot of things have been misinterpreted over the eons of time. And the only way to find the truth is to go directly to the source. Because if you think about it, what book did Jesus read, or what teacher did Jesus learn from that he became Jesus? Well, I'm here to tell you there's none. Or Buddha. What path did Buddha take that got him to understand what he knew and what he discovered in his enlightenment and that sort of thing? Well, it wasn't written in books. I mean, yeah, some of it was written in books, but the real truth, you have to get directly vertical from the source, from the creator. And that's what I do. And that's what you're going to have to do if you want to find the truth. To sum it up, Brahman is not a thing. It is the source of all things, but you cannot give credit to it for being the source of all things. You can't give it credit, because Jesus talked about us being like a seed. And so if there's an invisible seed in Brahman, you can't say it's anything. There's no time, there's no space, there's nothing there. And when God shines his light, her light, on Brahman, then the seed reacts to that love. And then as soon as it reacts, it has to exit Brahman, because there's nothing in Brahman. So if there was something in Brahman, Brahman wouldn't be Brahman. And so it has to leave, but there's nowhere for it to leave to. So it's attracted to the light. But what was the light? The light is actually Brahma or God or the God that Jesus prayed to. So that's what it's drawn to, the light, drawn to the light out of the darkness of Brahman. And then it has to come to a galaxy, a universe, a reality, a realm, or whatever it is. It was created by the Creator, by Brahma. And that's how it functions. And as I said, if you reread your scriptures, if you reread all your stuff and read the source and take it in mind of what I just told you, and when you read it, you might start to get some of the clues and go, aha, I think that guy is right on the video. I think he's right. That makes sense and everything. Do that. And I think of course, you're going to have to pray too and try to get, but if you do that, I think you'll find out that I'm right about these things. I know that I'm right. I'm not guessing at this stuff, but you have to figure it out for yourself. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a good day.